epidemic. You are probably thinking that an epidemic can have no relevance to lifelines, and that people get ill simply because they have become infected by some bacteria. This is correct, but only so far as a person allows themselves to become infected. And by this, I do not mean that they were not wearing a protective health mask. That would not have saved them. I cannot prove my point with theoretical argument. Just as I cannot prove anything I have said in this book, just as you would not walk around with a mask on during a flu epidemic just to test whether the mask works or not. I am sharing what I know to be true. Whether it resonates with you or not, only you can know. So, let us unravel the stages of disease. The cause of an illness is your voluntary agreement to play the game called epidemic. It all begins with rumors that, somewhere, an epidemic, the flu for example, is going around. Everyone knows that the flu is transmitted through the respiratory system, and so, you, like everyone else, totally accept the possibility that you could come down with something. You immediately run the being off sick scenario through your mind. You imagine having a temperature, lying in bed coughing and sneezing. From this moment on, you are playing the pendulum's game because your imagination is shaping your thought energy to the same frequency as the destructive pendulum. Your subconscious starts searching for confirmation of the onset of an epidemic, and your attention becomes selective. You seem suddenly to be surrounded by people sneezing. They were always there. It is just that you did not notice them before. From time to time, at work and at home, someone will raise the subject of the flu. Your suspicion that an epidemic is on its way is confirmed by more and more evidence. Even if you were not particularly looking for confirmation, or the subject does not particularly worry you, somehow, confirmation is given of its own accord. If, from the very beginning of the game, you have attuned yourself to the frequency of the destructive pendulum, your bond with it will become stronger, regardless of whether your participation is conscious. If you are not against the idea of getting sick, or if you feel that you are, for some reason, bound to come down with something, you become an active adherent. On the other hand, you decide that you cannot afford to be ill and keep telling yourself how totally healthy you are. But that does not work. Just thinking about the illness means that you are attuning your energy to its frequency. How exactly you think about it, positively or negatively, is of no matter. Your efforts to convince yourself from the very beginning that you will not get ill enforce your acceptance of the likelihood that you will become ill. And, because this is the case, no amount of self-indoctrination will keep you healthy. Words spoken aloud are simply warm air, and words spoken to oneself are nothing at all in comparison to the inaudible power of faith. Without faith, you will not protect yourself from the flu, even if you rush to get a flu vaccination. It makes no difference because, whatever you do, you will be ill for as long as you need to be. The first symptoms provide you with a choice of whether you are going to come down with something serious or recover very quickly. You might make a weak attempt to resist, but, finally, you face the fact that you are going to be ill. With that, the final adjustment is made, and your energy vibration and you shift to a lifeline where illness is prevalent. The induced shift actually starts from the very moment that you respond to the pendulum's prod. If you genuinely could not care about the epidemic, you will not be affected. If you are on holiday, have not communicated very much with anyone, have not seen the news, and know nothing about the epidemic, the pendulum will not affect you. It will simply disappear into thin air. Have you ever wondered why doctors are not infected by their patients? Many boldly work without wearing a mask. It is not because they have had the jabs. You cannot have a vaccine for everything. The thing is that doctors are also actively playing the game of the illness pendulum, but they are playing an entirely different role. By analogy, the next time you fly, notice the stewardesses on the plane. They whiz up and down the cabin like little angels, insistently advising passengers to fasten their seatbelts. And yet, they are so mobile in the cabin, one suspects that, if anything happened, they would simply hover in the air, like hummingbirds. What about breastfed babies infected with AIDS? The fastidious listener will ask. Do they, too, radiate the energy of induced transition? In response, it should be said that, firstly, we are looking at the phenomenon of epidemic as a general tendency, and, secondly, I am not suggesting that the concept of infection is a delusion, or that thought energy radiating at the frequency of illness is the sole cause of ill health. Transurfing is neither a dogma, nor does it claim to be the final authority on truth. No idea should be taken to be absolute truth. We can only take into account patterns and regularities. Truth is always somewhere close by, but where exactly, nobody can say.